liminal.earth, a map of the strange, wonderful, unusual, and unexpected. So this is all user-generated story submissions. And once they're approved, the website host posts them as this interactive map format. You can integrate this software into websites. I've made some of my own interactive maps for class assignments. It's actually really easy to do this, but it's impressive how much is on here. And as you can see, they have custom tags. I believe there's a key on here too. Is there? Ooh, map key? Nope. Oh, you can submit your own story. Guys, submit your stories. I swear there used to be a key. Apparently, the key is not here anymore. But that's okay. All right, we have all of these places to start with and find some spooky, scary stories. I think we're going to start in my home state of Massachusetts. All right, let's start with a classic in Boston. We've got the Spring Street Deer Spirit, submitted by this person in 2014. This happened in Somerville. This person says they rented a room with several other people on the second floor. I thoroughly enjoyed my time there. Okay, thanks for the review. Anyways, one day at work, one of my supervisors gave me a deer skull with antlers. That's a very Somerville thing to happen. She had rescued it from a dumpster across the country some time ago and randomly felt compelled to give it to me. Okay. I was very happy to take it and promptly put it on my altar. Did she know you had an altar, or was she just giving a random employee a deer skull? I don't remember exactly when, but maybe a few days to a week later, something weird happened. I woke up in the middle of the night to find the deer skull floating off the altar. I stared at it like, what? And then a few seconds later, it carefully lowered back down onto the altar. It made no sound and did not move anything else. The next day, I mentioned the experience to a psychic. They told me there's a bullet hole in the skull, and the skull was moved across the country. The deer is probably lost and confused. The deer spirit knew coming to me could help it. I was supposed to bring it back to the woods. There was a nice little space under a fallen tree that seemed appropriate. I placed the deer skull in there with a couple crystals and herbs to help this deer spirit find its way home, said a few prayers, and left. That was the end of the experience. Happy ending? I think. Okay. Happy ending. The haunted deer skull that just floated. I was hoping for a little bit more pizzazz to that one, but that's just some witch shit happening in Somerville, which when is it not? Let's check out this one. The Turtle Shrine. Submitted by M. Okay, this is just like an odd find. There's just like, people can also submit just fun little things they find, I guess. Just odd things they see. So this is just a little turtle shrine. That's all. Okay, that was cute. But I want something spooky. I want something scary. This is why I want the key. There was like a key to understand what these mean, but I can't find it now. Like the map key isn't there anymore, so I don't know what we're getting into when I click on these. But I can assume that the little ghost means haunted, so we're going to click on the beachfront apparition. Okay, submitted by Louisa P. In the summer of 1987, when I was 27, I left my friend's beach house in Gloucester early in the morning during a rainstorm for a solitary walk on the beach. Out of this area came a man in yellow rain gear, looking and walking toward the waves, perpendicular to my course. As I got closer, I saw he was older, with a gray beard, and that his rain gear was a vintage Macintosh. He looked like some guy on a fish sticks package. I was very into vintage clothing in those days, so I thought I would ask him where he found it. Closer, I saw a look of concern on his face, and that his gaze was fixed on the horizon to my right, except there was no horizon because we were in the midst of a heavy rainstorm. I decided to merely compliment him on the rain gear. When I was 3 feet from him, I saw all the broken capillaries on his skin as if he drank, and that his eyes were still fixated on that not there horizon, clearly upset. There was nothing to see, so I passed just behind him and said merely, "How's it going?" He neither looked at me nor replied. When I walked a few more steps, I thought, what is he? Too cool to say hi when we're the only two on this beach? I turned to look with resentment, but he was not there. I tried to figure out, could he have run all the way down to the waves? Was he trying to drown himself? Hence the anguish? Okay, chill. Baffled, I watched for his Macintosh hat to surface, and when it didn't, my brain scrambled for an explanation. I thought, ghost. What nonsense, right? I turned around to find his tracks in the wet sand. Mine were the only set of tracks on that beach. Dun dun! So they saw a fish sticks fisherman ghost. That's fun. He was just looking at the horizon. Why'd you have to, air him out, though, for saying his skin was bad? His broken capillaries and saying he was a drinker. You didn't have to call him out like that. That was rude. Alright, let's look at this ghost up here. What was I scared of? Submitted by Juniper. Saw a ghostly pair of jeans striding across the road. This area of the road gets quite foggy at night, but the unmistakable form of a pair of pants ran through the fog without disturbing it at all. Just the pants? I don't even know what kind of ghost that could be. Ghost pants? I don't know how that makes sense. Do the pants have a soul? As you can see, there are UFOs. Okay, I think we're going to click on... Let's go over here. Chappaquiddick UFO. That's what I'm talking about. Submitted by Quincy D. Oh my gosh, they have photo evidence. Okay. Living in an oceanfront rental home in Chappaquiddick Island, I observed UFO activity on 2 or 3 occasions within a few weeks of time. The view from the house looked north across Nantucket Sound to the southern coast of Cape Cod. I have gazed at this view throughout my life, and at the time of these sightings was very familiar with all normal human activity. I lived alone and would spend countless hours gazing through the bay windows at the beautiful coastal scene. One night, I saw 2 very unusual lights hovering over Cape Cod that immediately baffled me. I was very familiar with what spotlights on helicopters looked like at this distance, and it wasn't even remotely comparable. The 2 unusual components were their appearance and movement. These balls of light had a ridiculously large diameter, considering the distance they appeared to be at, maybe 10 miles away from me. I was able to photograph one with a cheap one-piece camera. Any normal human light that I'm familiar with would have been impossible to photograph at such a distance. Secondly, the motion of these objects was unlike anything I had ever observed in the sky. They would hover at a certain elevation and move along horizontally at a seemingly methodical, steady pace, but then in an instant rapidly change elevation at a diagonal ascent or descent with absolutely no perceivable period of acceleration or deceleration. This is, hard to read. I'm sorry. Okay, the lights moved. They would move horizontally, they would move diagonally, they would disappear during rapid ascent. Like that. Jagged. Years later, I read a New York Times special about the Navy's public release of some of their UFO accounts. It was no surprise, but also fascinating to read the accounts of several other people who filmed, observed, and described very similar activity in a professional setting that had been officially acknowledged by the Navy. And this person is saying that they are a land surveyor. I've made a career of having a knack for spatial awareness and a good sense of distance, perspective, and scale. And I have photographic evidence. Let's see these UFOs. Okay, that's really weird looking. Yeah, they have it on camera. They got this one. That's a reflection, I think, of that one. And this giant light, which that is very odd. It has multiple colors. I have no idea what that would be. It definitely is an unidentified flying object. Okay, thank you for sharing. Quincy from Chappaquiddick. Alright, let's move away from Massachusetts. There's a lot in the US. I feel like we have to go to where this little cryptid is. The stone tosser. I'm intrigued by this one. Okay? Submitted by Anonymous at Campbell River. We were SXS. Huh? We were 6 for my dad's 49th birthday. We went down a logging road off the nearest gas station. We traveled over 50 to 60 kilometers that day, and we went down a way we haven't been down before. We went this way to scout for possible hunting spots. Me and my mother were in on SXS, and my dad and younger sister were in the other. Are these bikes? Are these like big bikes? I don't know. I don't know about this. Anyway, they were driving through a logging slash coming up to a bit of trees, and as we came to the forested bit, a rock came flying in through the passenger side. First, we thought it could have been for my dad, but it couldn't have been. They were too far ahead, and we had a full window shield. We looked at the stone afterwards. It was heavy, over 6 or 7 pounds, almost perfectly round like the shape of a baseball, but bigger and heavier. It broke the floorboard and bruised and cut my leg. We sped up ahead to show the others. We went back to the spot and saw broken and tipped over trees. After that, I've been riding with a GoPro to try to catch something like that again, or something weirder. Okay, coming in hot from the Pacific Northwest, outside Vancouver. I'm gonna call it right now, that's Bigfoot. I've decided that was Bigfoot. Because isn't that what they say? Every single thing that happens around here, they say it's Bigfoot. Alright. Roswell. 3-minute time loss. Submitted by Butterdog. That's how you know it's legit. Okay? I'm not gonna doubt Butterdog. So once my family and I were rushing to school, and all of a sudden we look at the clock and became hella scared. Our former time was 7:35, and we look at our clock and it says 8:35. It happened when we went through a dense fog. Then when we left it, time shifted back to its original time, exactly at 7:35. We lost 3 minutes in the cloud. I love that. Short, to the point, fun story. Thank you, Butterdog. Okay, we're going to move out of the continent. We're going to go somewhere else. I think, is this Iceland? Let's look at Iceland. Tiny Music of the Huldufolk. Submitted by Christopher. My now wife and I had just been married in Iceland. We decided to tool around the country for a few days. Using a popular app, we had booked a beautiful cabin in between 2 volcanoes. Iceland is known for being a place to encounter Huldufolk, or as we call them, elves. Each night, as I would lay my head down to go to sleep, I would hear soft music, like the kind you would hear at a Renaissance fair, or very folky with harps and other string instruments. I would pop my head up to see what it was, and I wouldn't be able to hear it. I would lay my head back down, and I would hear it again. I didn't tell my wife at the time because she tends to get a little scared of something that could be paranormal. Knowing some about fae folk and fairy lore, I knew not to go looking outside for it. I just decided to go to sleep. Smart. The next night it happened again. I paid more attention this time, even opening the door to the cabin just to take a peek to see if anything was out there. It seemed to play just in that liminal time between awake and drifting off. I could hear it better this night, but only in that liminal space. The next morning we packed up and we headed out on the road to our next destination. I decided to bring it up after the fact so she wouldn't have been scared. I got out, "Hey," when she stopped me and asked, "Did you hear tiny music at night while we were there in the cabin?" She had heard it too. My jaw hit the steering wheel and we talked about it all the way back to Reykjavik. That's a fun story. See, that's a very liminal story. That belongs on here. That was a liminal experience. You shared that experience with 2 people. The music thing, I appreciate that. Thank you for sharing. Okay. We have time for 1 or 2 more. So where else should we go? Maybe I'll close my eyes and we'll click and we'll see where we end up. We're in Zanzibar. All right. The Popobawa in Zanzibar. Submitted by Anonymous. Growing up in Tanzania, I've always known about Popobawa. One day I was in Zanzibar with my friend, staying in his loft bed, just hanging out, talking. He had long, thin cutouts in the walls as windows. I was looking outside through one when I saw a huge bat figure jump in the trees. I screamed and told my friend, but when he looked, it wasn't there anymore, but the tree was moving. If you know anything already or do any research on Popobawa, you would know that was probably it. You already know what we have to do. An evil spirit or shetani, which is believed by residents of Zanzibar. Is there any more info on that? It's a Swahili name that translates literally as batwing. Based on a description of the dark shadow cast by the spirit when it attacks at night. Oh, it attacks people. Popobawa typically visits homesteads at night, but can be seen in the daytime. It attacks men, women, and children and may attack all the members of a household before passing on to another house in the neighborhood. Its nocturnal acts can comprise simple physical assault and or poltergeist-like phenomena, but most feared is the sexual assault of men and women. Awesome. Victims are often urged to tell others that they have been assaulted and are threatened with repeat visits by Popobawa if they do not. During Popobawa panics, many people try to guard against attack by spending the night awake inside of their houses, huddled around an open fire with other family members and neighbors. So reports go back only to 1965, and then through the 70s and 80s, and the 2000s. A popular origin story proposes that an angry sheik released a jinn to take vengeance on his neighbors, but the sheik lost control of the jinn, who took to demonic ways. It has been argued that because of Zanzibar's past as an Arab-run slave market, the story is an articulated social memory of the horrors of slavery. Many of the legends on Zanzibar came from the colonizers and traders of the past, including Arabs, Portuguese, Indians, Chinese, Britons, Persians, and Africans. So there are panics, known to happen. Reports of Popobawa attacks rise and fall with the election cycle in Zanzibar. Although victims argue Popobawa is apolitical. What a crazy way to phrase that. And reports rose dramatically relatively recently in 1995. So there's a whole controversial lore here. There's even, a girl who said she was possessed. Fatima was possessed by the monster, spoke in a man's deep voice, and they heard noises, and they placed charms and do exorcisms. I'm so intrigued. Interesting. Okay, so that's very freaky. I would be very scared if I saw that. Yeah. We got time for one more story, okay? Time for one more story. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. I'm going to click. Where am I? Where am I close to? Oh, I'm all in the corner. Okay, we're not close to anything. Try again. Still not close. Still not close to anything. We're going to zoom in a little bit more. Okay, we got one. Ooh, which one should we pick? Let's see which one looks more interesting. This seems very boring and... Okay. Coming in hot from Egypt. How did it look like? Submitted by Yusuf. I want to how did it look back then? Thank you, Yusuf. Very helpful. And from Giza we have, from Bassem, when I'm home alone in my parents' home, at first seemed normal. But when my parents are shopping or getting into the car, I felt something watching me, or seen ghost/entity, and when I follow them, they see me, and it's creepy. I don't feel safe at all. Well, I hope they're doing alright. The ghosts can see them too. I hope they're okay. This one was more disconcerting than anything else. Let's click one more somewhere else. Let's not end on that note, okay? Let's go somewhere else. Yo, I clicked on Antarctica. That's not even close to anything. I don't know how I moved the screen. Okay. We're somewhere over here. Let's zoom, and we're going to pick one of these. Closer to here. Okay. There's a lot here. So... this person was walking to the nearby train station in Sydney I felt or sensed that feeling you get when someone runs up behind you. The moment that I expected the person to clap me on my shoulder, I turned my head towards my friend in anticipation. Instead of seeing whoever ran up behind me, a hand appeared between me and my friend. It wasn't solid, but it wasn't fully see-through, but somewhere in the middle. I stopped and turned, and there wasn't anyone else around, just my friend looking at me quizzically, like, what are you doing? And when I did stop and turn, the hand withdrew back into the ether and was gone. So bizarre, but so real. Wait, I gotta hit that with an Australian accent. So bizarre, but so real. The ethereal hand. Intriguing. Okay, yeah, this person had a whole nightmare. We're not getting into that. I see I'm getting too sidetracked because these are so fun to read. I want to read every single entry on this. And there's just simply too much stuff. There's so much. And like a majority of them are in the US. Look, this region has 400, 300, like 181 here. That's way too much.